and welcome to the Art of Pointy Things, a channel where I discuss my adventures in knitting, sewing, embroidery and other similar crafts. I'm Dusty and this is the 7th episode of my monthly knitting roundup, where I go through what I've been making, mainly knitting, but generally making since I last spoke to you all. So a month has passed, the first month of the year. I did post a sort of project plan for this year, so you can go check that out if you want. I'm not wearing any knitting today. I do have a knitted hat on and some knitted socks, but you only see my hands, so there's no point really discussing them. I must admit I've been absolutely loving my knitted hat that I made last time. I wear it a lot and I definitely want to make more, which we'll get to later. So let's just jump into... Oh, so I don't have any finished objects. That's it. Jump into finished objects. I don't actually have any knitted finished objects this month. Oh well. So we're going to skip knitted finished objects and jump straight into works in progress. So this is not something you'll have seen before, but that I am really quite excited about and absolutely loving. I am doing a sample knit for Botanical Yarn. They posted on their Instagram about looking for sample knitters, and I volunteered, and they sent out a sort of thing about different projects, and they had the HuHuatanga, I'm probably butchering that, I'm really sorry, pullover by Francois Denoy of, I think it's like Aloha Knits, Aloha, something like that. I will put details, all the show notes and things I discuss will be down in the description. And so it is a pullover with Colourwork yoke pullover with this sort of, I don't know the name of these, rhombusy shape, tessellating down. And the original pattern called for 3 colours that go down. I think this is a traditional Hawaiian motif, possibly. I really hope that's right. Of a sweet potato, and it was meant to be 3 colours going down, but Botanical Yarn sent me the yarn for this to knit, and what she sent me was a 10 colour fade that she wanted me to use for the colour work, which is what I've done. So I need to grab the colours. Those are 9 of them, and then, oh, maybe we did a little bit further down. So, and then the colour I'm currently working goes here. One moment, give me a moment whilst I try and set these up in a sensible, there you go, right. So it goes from this dark pink through to pale pink, and then to pale purple through to dark purple. And so she's been doing these fade sets for a while now, and they're absolutely beautiful, and I love working with it. It's done so well. Like, you don't actually, like, you can just see this is just beautifully fading through. I'm on the second to last colour, so I'm almost done with the colour work. I just evenly divided the number of rows of the colour work between the colours. Simple. And yeah, it goes, it's absolutely gorgeous. And so Botanical Yarn do these colour work, these fade sets. I don't think this one has a name. If it does, I will put it somewhere. But it's just a fade set she sent me to do this with. It's a sample for her shop to demonstrate the thing she does. I think she currently has a fade yarn club. So every month you can get sent a random fade that she dyes up. And I love her stuff. I love her yarn and the colours she dyes and things like that. And it's a gorgeous excuse to work on something like this. I am definitely more of a process knitter than a product knitter. I enjoy colour. I haven't done a cut. As if you have watched my projects video, you will know that I have not done a colour work jumper before. I've done colour work before and I've done jumpers before. I've never done an actual colour work jumper. I'm going to move these off. I'll need to go somewhere else. So I did do a lot of swatches. I unravelled most of them this is one of my swatches. This is not the blocked one. I have a block swatch somewhere. I have no idea where the block swatch has gone. But I did a lot of practice with this yarn, other yarn, just to make sure I could get what I was looking for in terms of tension, things like that. And I mean, I love knitting with hand-dyed yarn. I think it's beautiful. It's just not necessarily something I would personally wear. I do want to make a colourwork jumper with hand-dyed yarn at some point. I just need to find the right pattern. But this is an excellent pattern just for this fade. I think it's working absolutely beautifully. And I'm really looking forward to finishing this. So that's my current project. The wool, so the background is this silvery grey. Let me find one of the other balls. You sent me a bunch of this. It's a sort of grey, neutrally grey. Good. I don't think this has a name. I don't know if she sells this separately or not, but it goes very well. Just a nice plain grey. What else did I say? Yeah, I made a lot of swatches. I did a lot of practice runs before I cast this on and actually started the colour work. I haven't made as much progress on this as I would have liked. And it's also probably noticed, despite me promising that I would get videos uploaded in like the first week of the month, and I am probably going to miss that with this one because a bunch of stuff happened in late January that has sort of thrown some of my plans out the water. I still should be able to finish this. I gave myself way too much time, and I know how fast I knit and how much I can get. The body and the sleeves, I mean, as I said, I've almost finished the colour work, and then it's just basically short rows shaping for the back, and then body and sleeve, which I think are just stockinette with some shaping on the sleeves, and that should be pretty quick. It will definitely not be as much brain work as this is. So that should work out, hopefully, and it should be done. But I had a lot going on that sort of just came out of the blue and happened, and meant that I couldn't get as much knitting done, and I couldn't record, and I couldn't do a few things, which was annoying. But those are sorted and fixed, and I now have time to just sit and knit. So hopefully the next couple of days, as I said, I'm on the second to last colour. It shouldn't be much longer for me to finish up the colour work. And then go on to the body. I really hope you can see it, because I think it's a really very simple motif, and so it really works with the fade. There's this weird stripe here that I don't know what to do, because this colour, this one, has a lot of it's a very pale colour. It's got a lot of dark speckles in. So a lot of these yarns are it's got a tonal base, and then these sort of browny green speckles, and occasionally sort of darker purpley pinky speckles, depending. I think this one's got purple speckles. I think this one's got, that one's actually more tonal with very little speckles. And yeah, you've got these sort of greeny brown speckles in, which I think add a nice depth to the fabric. It's just resulted here in a bit of pooling, almost of that dark purple speckle. But I think overall it looks good. The one thing I realised I forgot to do in the colourwork section is alternate skeins. Skeins. I'm always terrible at pronouncing that word. Because one of the things I always recommend you do with hand-dyed yarn is alternate skeins. And even though they all look very similar, they often look different once you've got them knitted up. I haven't done, with the grey, I haven't done that in the colourwork. But I'm hoping it's not noticeable, because the colour work should pull your eye. But once I get onto the body and the sleeves, I will probably alternate skeins every couple of rows, just in case of any colour differentiation between the skeins. Wait, what? Have I dropped a stitch? How have I dropped a stitch? Fudgicles, I thought I... Right. Also, I may have stopped at one point because I was making a mistake somewhere, so there might be a mistake. Don't look closely then. I may be trying to fix a mistake at the moment. I can't remember. I have to sit down and have a look at this. So yeah, beautiful pattern. Very well written, just a very standard yoked sweater. Very clear instructions. I've had no issues with understanding it. I have had a moment of overthinking, as I normally do with anything complex. I have a tendency of completely and utterly overthinking it with regards to the colourwork pattern. But as I said, that was just me overthinking things. So I think I do that with most patterns anyway. It's just like, how can I make this more complex for myself? So yeah, beautiful pattern. Yeah. I feel I should have more to say, and I can't remember if I do or not. But yeah. You might see more sample knits from Botanical Yarns in the future, because as I said, I'm a bit of a process knitter. I love the excuse to use hand-dyed yarns, but as I mentioned when I bought some surprise Botanical Yarn, I'm not a massive fan of the colour pink, and she does a lot of pink things because she's often inspired by flowers, and a lot of flowers are pink, which is like fine, and like they're really pretty. I just know that I wouldn't wear it, so like I probably wouldn't wear this if I was making it for myself because of the pink. But I get an excuse to knit like a fade like this, which is absolutely gorgeous, and I wouldn't really sort of do it myself otherwise. So yeah. Currently that's living in my Christmas project bag, temporarily, mainly for transport. It doesn't actually, I can't fit all the colours in it. I can only fit the colours I'm working on at a time, but normally that's fine and doesn't really cause an issue. Discussing project bags does bring me to an actual finished object that I made this month. It's not knitting, it's sewing. I tried to take this project bag, the pattern I made for this, and make it bigger. And I mean, I made it bigger. It's bigger. It's just sort of almost too big. Let's see if I can show you how big it is. It's absolutely massive. I imagine, I sort of realised it was going to be too big. You can hear the crinkling of the pattern. I'll get rid of the pattern for a moment so it doesn't crinkle too much. Like for example, this is the bag, and to give you a scale, that is a cone. I mean, it's not a full cone of 500 grams, but this is a cone, a 500 gram originally cone of whole super soft, and yeah, no, it's sort of, I could fit like 4 or 5 of those cones in here relatively easily. So yes, no, I may have made this bag too big. But as I said, in here is Holst Super Soft, and is a project I've shown off, we've seen a bit of progress on in my last video. This is the seed stitch sweater vest that I'm knitting, that I basically took gauge for and my measurements, and I'm knitting up. So this, I've done a lot of work on this. I think I cast this on at the beginning of January, and I am past the waistline. I feel I should have put stitches in where my waistline is, but I am it's knitting bottom up, so I've passed my waistline and I am on to heading towards the underbust, and then I've sort of broken my body up into different sections, and so I've memorised that. So from bottom of hem to hip, hip to waist, waist to underbust, underbust to bust, bust to overbust, and then, well, I mean just after bust you split for the front and back, but currently I'm still in the round. It's just seed stitch, just plodding along. What I have done for the increases, I don't know if I remember discussing, umming and ahhing of how to do the increases without too much disrupting the pattern. I have a line of just stockinette, so on the inside is the knit stitches, on the outside it's the purl stitches, which is hidden. Someone just come into my gate. Sorry, suspicious noises. And so it's sort of hidden, you can't really see it that well. But at the same time, I do kind of, I think one of the Andrea Maury patties used this almost as a feature, which is kind of cool. And I respect, I think that could look really good. I just don't want it on this piece. Yeah, coming out good. I love the texture it's giving. I think it works quite well with the sort of slightly heathered variegated yarn. So this is being knit up on my 3.75 interchangeables, which are the Knit Pro Trends, which are basically some of the cheapest interchangeable needles you can get, I think. I'm pretty certain they are. Mainly because I just wanted to see, I saw they were there, and normally I go for metal. These are a sort of plastic, relatively solid plastic. They're quite smooth. And I saw them on the Wool Warehouse website, or was that what I was looking for in them? Yeah, I think so. And I just kind of wanted to try them and see, you know, they were really cheap for interchangeable needles. I just want to see what they were like. You can see I can flex them a bit. They're not the sturdiest thing in the world. And in fact, they really are not the sturdiest thing in the world, because this is not the first pair I bought. This is the first pair I bought. Yeah, needles aren't going to look like that, are they? As I was knitting with it, it's just snapped in half. Bit of a moment of panic to try and rescue all my stitches before they dropped properly, but it was okay. But yeah, no, it just snapped on me. And I mean, I am knitting 2 strands of a light fingering. I think it's what most people consider Holst, fingering to light fingering. 3.75. It's not the tightest of gauges. I mean, it's a relatively tight gauge, because I quite like tight gauged. I like the structure that you get with tight gauges over the loose drapey, especially for garments. Shawls, I don't mind the loose drapey, but garments I quite like the sort of tightness. Luckily, Wool Warehouse was great, and they shipped me a new pair free of charge. And it came really quickly, like it was shipped really quickly, really good customer service. Shout out to Wool Warehouse for being excellent on that. But yeah, no, they just sort of snapped whilst I was knitting. So, I mean, there's a part of me, it's like you get what you pay for. You know, they weren't the most expensive thing in the world. They are basically the cheapest you can get. So, not sure I'd recommend. I mean, they're the only 3.75s I have, so they're still on the project. And if I break them again, then I'd probably not bother getting new ones. But yeah, that's just more of a heads up. Just, you know, if you're thinking, if you're sort of on a low budget like me and you're sort of buying interchangeables as you need them, maybe worth going for the metal Knit Pros or something. I mean, of course, if you can afford it, go for the expensive, nice, you know, the nice brands, the Chowgoos, the higher. Don't necessarily go for like the cheap ones. But if you know, you just like me, you just want to, you got a bunch of cables cheaply somewhere and you just want to pick up needles as and when you need them, I might not really recommend these ones. They, as I said, they're a bit flexy. They flex a bit. They do feel like, you know, I can see. Yeah. But project's going well. That's my thought on those needles. Yes, I've been over this. I think I discussed the plans. I mentioned this as a, I don't, did I mention this in my previous episode? I can't remember if this was mentioned in my previous episode or not. But I at least mentioned the idea, and if you go back in some of my other ones, the tank top I made follows a very similar design philosophy of take body measurements, make garment. And this is, yeah, Holst Super Soft. Covered in dog hair, because as I mentioned previously, we got ourselves a rescue puppy dog. She is part husky and she is shedding, and basically the entire house is covered in white fur. Great. Great. As a woman who likes wearing dark colours and black, it's, you know, definitely a choice. Chair's creaking quite badly there. On to the other project I have actually made some progress on. The Owlie Socks by Julie Elshwick-Schumel. I'm sorry if today's a bit disjointed in my thoughts, because I've not actually written my notes down, which I normally do. I normally have like my laptop just there with all my notes on it, and I just haven't this month. So these are cabled owl socks. They have little owl motifs. You can see the little owls. I love them. I think they're so cute. I finished one. I can't remember if I finished one before, but I have finished one. I still need to sew the ends in, but... And I am past the heel on my second one. So I have honestly, I really wanted to finish these this month. I probably didn't mention it. I really wanted to finish these. I really want these finished. I would love to wear them. But with the sample knit, I have been putting a lot of effort into that, because I'd much rather finish that sooner rather than later. And it's already like it's due at the end of February, so I'm already a bit sort of, especially because I've lost some time with things. So these haven't been as priority, which is sad, because I really like them and I really can't wait to finish them. Anyway, so the yarn is a BFL bamboo blend. I can't remember the percentage breakdown. Watch my previous episodes. I discussed these in great detail. Sort of heel flap with the cable pattern on the heel flap, which is really cool. Turn, gusset. Top down, cuff down to toe. The yarn is hand dyed by me using rhubarb leaves and nettles, and I have a video on that again if you are interested. I think I've mentioned it every single time I've made this, discuss them. But yeah, not much. I mean, the progress has been made, and I think I've been saying this for like the last few months. I really want to get these finished by the next one, but you know. What else is there? I think that's it. That's it for works in progress. Right. So, on to acquisitions, I think. So, we'll start with yarn acquisitions. Yes. So, my plan has been thrown out because my plan was to record this episode last week before my birthday. My birthday has been within the past week. I was planning on recording this last week before my birthday. But I didn't because people came around to visit and I hate doing this stuff with people in the vicinity. It makes me uncomfortable. So I didn't record it, and my birthday has now happened, which means I've received birthday presents. However, I'm not going to show them to you this month because I was planning on showing them to you next month, because I'm not currently planning on buying any yarn this month, and then that means I got a bit of an acquisitions to discuss next month. I don't know why I'm telling you this and not just doing it, but hey. But I have actually bought my yarn. So as I mentioned earlier, I've been wearing a hat a lot, and I absolutely love it. It's gorgeous. And I needed something from Wool Warehouse that I'm probably not going to show you because I don't know where it is, and I thought I needed it. I didn't actually need it. I was buying some needles for something that I thought I was going to do, and then I didn't do. So I've got some new needles, but anyway. So oh well, you know, it's free postage over this amount, and I needed some yarn for something else, which I'll discuss in a moment. I was like, I can buy myself a nice yarn. So I got myself some of the Croft West Yorkshire Spinners, the Croft Shetland Tweed, which is 100% Shetland wool, in the Burstow colourway. That word there. So it's a DK wool, 100% Shetland wool. And I'm going to make a hat out of it. How will be a hat and matching mitts, I think. Just because I absolutely love the hat I've got. I wear it all the time. And I just want, you know, I want a couple of choices for hats. You know, do I want to wear my blue one? This is a nice sort of tweedy brown, mottled brown. It's absolutely gorgeous, and I think will knit up beautifully. So that will be a fun little project for myself. So that's the plan for this. I don't know when I'll get around to it. My hope is that I keep having things on my needles that I can't put down. It's like all the Christmas knits I had to finish before Christmas, and I ended up knitting quite late. And then I've now got this jumper that I need to finish. So if I can't sort of pick what I want to knit, I need to be knitting on one particular thing. So my hope is that once I've got that done, then I'll have between the Owlie Socks, which are cables, and the pullover, the sweater vest thing, which is actually relatively simple because it's just knits and purls. I do need to pay attention to what row I'm on and when I need to decrease and increase, but otherwise. But I think just a hat is just a nice simple thing. Also with hats, I also picked up, you can tell I like West Yorkshire Spinners. I just sort of quite like it. I bought some of their Colour Lab DK, which is what I knit the other hat out of, but this is in red, because for my dad's birthday / maybe Christmas, because you can never plan Christmas too early, I want to knit him a hat as well, and he loves red, so I've got some red. I have a brown as well, which I forgot to get out to show, but I have a brown that I might stripe in, just so it's not too red. I don't know. I think he would like just a red hat. I think he would absolutely love just a red hat. So the hope is that I can make him a hat for his birthday or Christmas or something like that. But yeah, so the West Yorkshire Spinners, it's Colour Lab DK in the colour Crimson Red. DK, 100% British wool. It's pretty certain it's not superwash. It does say you can wash, but you can't tumble dry it. You can iron it apparently. Huh. I think I've never tried ironing wool before. I know you can steam wool. I've never tried actually just ironing it. Anyway, so that's that. So that's Christmas present. My hope is that I've got a lot of DK yarn sat around, and actually one of the things I sort of want to do is make a sort of stock of things like hats and cowls and fingerless mitts that I can give as Christmas and birthday presents. I mean, my plan last year was basically spend most of the year knitting socks for people for Christmas, and then I made most of the socks in the month of November. That didn't really work very well. I sort of want to try that idea again of just having simple knits of socks or hats. I think socks was not possibly the best idea because they're done on very small needles. I think if I was doing socks again, I would do DK weight socks because I think they go a lot quicker. And I must admit, the thing is, I love, as I said, more of a process knit. I don't necessarily want to keep everything I knit, but at the same time, for some reason I don't want to knit people. I think I want to do maybe some cabled hats and cowls and things like that, and I think, yeah. So next I'm counting as an acquisition, but I didn't buy them. You'll probably tell by the style of the bands. So my other half's grandmother, I'm not going to call her a hoarder. She just has a lot of things, but she is actually quite good at getting rid of them when she admits that she no longer needs them. So she used to do a lot of knitting and sewing and embroidery and things like that, but unfortunately her vision has been going over the last few years and she's not been able to do them. And so in the last month she has finally admitted that there is no point in her keeping her stash of wool and yarn and fabric and things like that, because she sort of comes to the realization that she's never going, and it's really sad because, you know, some of the stuff that you know, she's made is absolutely beautiful, and it is sort of heartbreaking that we can't find a way, because we used to help her. You know, she had poor vision, so she couldn't thread the needles, so we used to thread needles for her, and she'd have like a stash of threaded needles for her cross stitch. But even now she can't see the cross stitch, and it's kind of sad. But she wanted to make sure that her wool went to a nice home, and she knows that I enjoy knitting. So I have, these aren't the only, this is just, I didn't want to get all out. This is a lot. But I have like at least like 2 sweaters quantities worth of both of these colours. Maybe it's a 1 sweater quantity this, and then it's like 2 of these. So this is 100% merino. Non-superwash? No idea. It doesn't say it's superwash, but who knows when this was made. Vintage yarn. With this lady, you have no idea if this is like 5 years old, 10 years old, 20 years old. Did I buy it before I moved overseas? You really have no idea. So it's Wendy, which I think is still good. Yeah, just DK wool. 50 gram balls. I've got in this sort of pale purple. It looks a bit grey, paley purple. Probably go really well with that Colourwork jumper. And then this pink. And there's a part of me that's like, do they go well together? Maybe. Could I do? I think I've determined that as much as I'm enjoying the Colourwork of that, I'd probably do something cabley instead of Colourworky. It's 100% merino. Squishy and soft, and yes, very nice. So I've got that, and I must admit, this is one of those things where I want to say, like, if you are starting knitting and you don't have a lot of money and you want to save some money, do question your elderly relatives. Or maybe not question, but just mention it to them, because sometimes, you know, they used to be into knitting and maybe, you know, arthritis, vision issues, just not finding interest in it anymore. Might have a large stash of yarn that you can have. And the thing is, I wouldn't even say necessarily have to be the older grandchild to be able to get it, because I think I know some people who were like, oh, my other cousin got it all. And it's like, I'm the youngest on one side of my family, and I got my entire grandmother's stash of yarn, because I'm the only person who showed any interest in it. So, yeah. But yeah, it's a sort of tip for if you don't have a lot of money, ask your family. Be surprised how many people just have balls of yarn sat around the house. I seem to have cut off. I wasn't paying attention, so I got cut off. But yeah, it's a nice wool. It's 100% wool, not an acrylic, which is kind of fun. So, not really my colour. So I might make, I don't know, I might add this to my stash shop. of making hats and cowls and mitts for other people. Maybe. I don't know, I've not decided yet. But yeah. Funky colours. My last acquisition is sort of hiding here, is this. So I had a advert on my Instagram of these brooch pins that, you know, you've got the circle and then you do basically what I was demonstrating with this. You thread that through the thing you're wearing and then out the other side, and it holds it quite securely. You can use it as a brooch pin and it looks like a dragon, and I can't even say I was drunk. I was perfectly sober when I decided to order it. I think the person was having a sale. I don't know if she's still having a sale. I will, if I can find them, I will link them below. But I think she might be having a closing down sale. And so yeah, and you know, different animals, and I do quite enjoy my fantasy dragons. So yeah, little sort of dragon motif. The main issue for me is that this hole is a bit small. I don't know if this holds true for all the patterns, but this hole is a bit small. So if you have a even slightly dense fabric, see if I can demonstrate it with a hat. It can be a bit tricky to line it up properly. Okay, so actually this is not too bad. But that's sort of how, I mean, to be honest, I would not really wear it on my hat. Tempting though, interesting fashion statement, maybe I will. But the issue I have is that this hole is almost too small, and the sort of, this bit is sometimes too thick. It goes to a point, but not necessarily a fine enough point for some of the particularly cardigans I wear. To be honest, they are mostly fast fashion, generic sort of retail cardigans. So I think you often find that the stuff you buy in stores is a lot thinner yarn knit quite tightly, and I think that's the problem. I think if I had something a slightly looser gauge, but it works fine for my shawls. The hat I seem to work great on. I'm actually genuinely, I was trying to demonstrate how bad it was. I was like, actually no, that worked really well. But I think it's really cute. I think it's quite well made. Just this little. I think, as I said, they said they would not, I don't think it was necessarily a closing down of the store, but they just weren't doing these things anymore. I'll link it below. I'm not entirely certain if I fully recommend it, but I think it's cute. I think, you know, I'm a sucker for small things sometimes. So this little shawl pin. Shawl broochy thing. Yeah. Little dragon. They have loads of animals. I had to try not to buy them all. Great fun. Put that back there, but at the same time, it sort of has occurred to me that I don't really have much else to say. I think I've covered all of my acquisitions, bar my birthday presents, which I'll talk about next month, so I definitely have something to talk about next month. Oh, you will probably not see, I think I mentioned with the pullover. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with the pullover, because I have to send it before I have to record the next episode. And February is a short month anyway, so I might have footage of it. I might not, if I have time to record it. Depends how soon to the date I need to get it back to them before I actually get it back. I actually finish. So I think that's it. I'm going to discuss some life stuff because I feel the need, you know. This podcast was started because there's very few people in my actual life I can talk through my knitting with, and don't just sort of. A lot of people are just like, oh, it's a knitted thing. That's cool. And you're like, oh yeah, it's a knitted thing. It is cool. And you try and talk to them about the specifics, and they just don't care. They just don't care. Not that you guys particularly care, because I have like not many people watch this regularly. But hey, you know, nobody's like telling me I'm bad at this, so please don't tell me I'm bad at this. I'm just doing this for fun at the moment because I just like talking. Anyway, so I'm going to tell you about the birds I've seen because I am a weirdo who likes birds. So as I mentioned before with the embroidered birds, I do quite like bird watching. I think it's fun. I think it's just, I just enjoy it. And especially with the dog, I've been out walking more, and dog walking and bird watching doesn't always go hand in hand because the dog wants to walk and is not particularly keen when you stop to try and figure out what the bird is. And if he sees the bird, she sees the bird, she is quite likely to try and chase it because small prey drive apparently. Or I don't know, it just, rescue dog. Who knows what's going on in her head sometimes. So yeah, there's that. But I have seeing a lot more birds. And I ended up going, WWT Slimbridge, so the Wetland and Wildfowl Trust, which are great places to go, by the way. If you love bird watching, they are absolutely amazing. I went to Slimbridge, which is one of their biggest centres, and I've been a few times this year. We bought annual membership because it felt like a good place to go that would generally be open during lockdowns and stuff. No matter what the lockdown, like you could generally, because it was an outdoor place, you could generally go, and it's also not particularly busy, so you don't have to worry about a lot of people there. You know, you sort of go and there might be 10 very keen people, and it's not particularly busy. So we went this month because we happened to be driving up to my parents to do some of the stuff I was discussing earlier, some of the last minute plans. We stopped by and I actually got to see some of the cranes, which is very nice because they're rare in the UK. I think in Europe they're a lot more common, but they're rare in the UK. And yeah, we got to see some of the cranes, which was very nice. And so these wetlands, it's often some of the best time of the year to go is in the winter because you get a lot of the winter migratory birds who come from colder regions and winter in the UK. You're sort of stood there in all of your layers like, So we saw some Buick swans, which I think spend the summer in like Siberia or something. They come and overwinter in like Gloucester. You do you. I mean, if that's where you want to overwinter, I get to look at pretty birds. I must admit, there's sometimes like I have these binoculars and you're sort of like that. You sort of sit there with some of these people who have amazing scopes and they're like, yes, you see that tiny bird in the distance all the way over there? Yes, that is a Buick swan. And you're like, how far away is that bird? But it's great fun. I love bird watching. I think my boyfriend does not like it as much as I do. He does look a bit cold sometimes, and I just stood there just like, birds. What else did we see? We saw a specific breed of goose, and I can't remember what it's called. White-fronted goose? Maybe? I don't know. But I want to go back to my bird embroidery. I need to dig it out. I don't know where I put it, but I do want to embroider more birds. I think I want to embroider all the birds. I just don't have the time to embroider all the birds. What else did I do? Did I do anything else? Yeah. As I said, lots of dog walking, seeing lots of birds, hearing lots of birds. I have seen more woodpeckers in the last couple of months than I think I've ever seen in my life. Apparently the woods just behind our house where I walk the dog, it's covered in woodpeckers, or at least it feels that way. And woodpeckers are so cool. I like woodpeckers. I think I just declare I like every bird. Like I like birds of prey, I like owls, I like woodpeckers, I like blue tits, I like robins, I like nuthatches. If I see it, it's probably my favourite bird. What is your favourite bird? The most recent bird I've seen. Yeah. Okay, right, I don't know how long I've just been rambling for. I just realised I probably shouldn't have been rambling for that long. You're probably all left by now, but hey! Do I actually care? I don't think at this point I do anymore. If you have stuck around, thank you for watching. If you wish to see me ramble about knitting more often, then please subscribe and come back next month for my next episode of off-topic conversations about birds and knitting. But yeah, thank you for watching, have a good day, and goodbye.